Still do 7 NUFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications options. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Supermac has scored!
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. It is the Supermac and Gibbo show. How are you, lads?
I'm
Pretty
good.
good. Thanks, Steve.
Getting forward, getting the goods lined for the next 3 games in a week. It's incredible, really, isn't it?
Yeah, all the bees, Barcelona, Bournemouth, and then Bradford.
Yeah,
Yes,
3
I
different
don't know if we're going
competitions.
downhill or uphill, but it's going to be quite a challenge in varying ways, isn't it?
It is great stuff. Before we look at the 3 games coming up, of course, we've got a game to look back on since we last spoke, and it's a win at last. We got the monkey off our back, a 1-0 win, and a good start for Mr. Voltemada. A goal, which is all you can ask for somebody who you spent that much money on, but also as a centre forward, you want to get off to a good start. We're obviously always on this show, John, with a man who got off to the best possible start with a home debut with a hat trick against Liverpool. But yeah, it was a win. It wasn't pretty, but it was a win, John.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. It wasn't pretty in some ways. I mean, wow, we did it the hard way, didn't we? And in some ways, I was quite disappointed, not with the victory, I hasten to add, that was necessary, but the way we huffed and puffed around the victory, because I was expecting it to be a little bit easier than it turned out to be. Goodness gracious, Wolves could have scored twice in the first 50 seconds, but for Nick Pope, who pulled off 2 stupendous saves. But yeah, at the end of the day, can you imagine, guys, going into Barcelona if we hadn't won against Wolves? The mood would have been significantly different, wouldn't it? Because we would have been saying, right, this has gone on for an eternity, no wins, and we're still looking. So it was great. And, I mean, being a journo, and you two guys have been around journos for so long, when we saw Wolves score the goal, we knew what the headlines was going to be, superstar and all this sort of thing, because you've got a centre forward, a good guy's come in to replace a greedy, self-centred guy, gets a winning goal, Newcastle get the first win, whoopee. But, it wasn't Malcolm's 3 against Liverpool, or it wasn't even McQuinn's 4 against Leeds. It was a good performance from him, but let's leave room for improvement in the lad, I mean, I saw some people, he's getting 10 out of 10 in the ratings, etc. Well, if that was the perfect performance, I'll stand tapping. It was the perfect header, but not the perfect performance. He's good. He's very good. But he's going to get better. That's obvious. I mean, he felt the pace of the Premier League. He was off in about an hour. He's going to be excellent, and we're so relieved and thrilled to have him here. But for me, the best player on the field was Tonali.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, you're right, John. Tonali, I thought, was absolutely brilliant throughout, and really put a number of players to shame, because they just weren't keeping up with him. They were constantly losing the ball, and Bruno it was the main culprit. I think he lost the ball so many times, and it was almost as if he refused to play it simple, and nothing more was required. If he and Tonali and Joe Linton just got some passing going together and worked it forward to Voltemade, great. That would have been lovely. But I felt that Bruno, he wanted to go about things the hard way all of the time, and constantly lost it. Constantly lost possession. But yeah, I was very pleased. When you join a new club, the best way of ingratiating yourself with all the supporters, everybody at the club, is to stick the ball in the net and it turn out to be the winning goal. It is the best thing that could have happened to him, and he is now loved, and he's going to love being here. And I sensed that he was thoroughly enjoying the atmosphere that was created before his goal. Even he was just thoroughly enjoying the whole experience, and he'll want more.
Sure.
Yeah, players like that, when they get the taste that he got on at the weekend, he'll be saying to himself, "I want more of that. I want more." And of course, we all want more as well.
Yeah.
Go on, John.
No, I was just going to say, Steve, it's ironic, isn't it, that by ill fortune, by nothing else, having worked so hard to right the number 9 situation, by absolute bad luck, we're going into the three Bs, as you called it, Steve, rightly called it, in the next week, and all the games to follow that, with only one centre forward. Voldemort, because Isula is very, very raw and he's nowhere near Champions League class, etc., etc. So with Wissa injured and out for a few weeks, we're back to the way it was last season when we had only Isaac and Callum Wilson was injured all the time. We've got only Voldemort and we've got Wissa injured all the time. It's so unfortunate. We've doubled up on every position with all the signings we've had. 2 right-sided centre-halves, 2 goalkeepers, 2 outside rights, all new, and 2 centre-forwards. And now, all of a sudden, before one's even played, we say we've got 1 centre-forward. It's a shame that, but let's not dwell on it. Let's not be negative. We've the big German boy looks as if he's got terrific feet and has got a real future.
Yeah.
But I just thought it's
such a tall guy as well, John.
Enormous.
He really does have phenomenal feet.
Yes, yeah. He reminds me a little bit, although I think he's better, Malcolm. He reminds me a little bit of Peter Crouch in build, but
he's not awkward like Crouchy was.
No, he's not. No, he's not. He's got great
This
feet.
guy is very smooth in his movement, in his action, and very smooth with the ball at his feet. There's going to be some real good stuff yet to come from him.
Yeah, there was an updated Eddie Howe press conference a couple of hours ago about Wissa, just saying that he will be back for the Brighton game. He says obviously things can change, he says, but the Brighton game just after the international break in October is when Wissa will be back. So that was a little update from Eddie Howe today.
It's a shame for Wissa because he's got such a good playing record, and to get an injury now to hold him out of the Newcastle side.
He was so desperate, Malcolm, so desperate to play in the Champions League. And
yes.
Whatever else lies ahead, for me, this is the biggest Champions League match of the lot because it's at home. We've got Paris Saint-Germain, the champions at the end of the 8-match run. But Barcelona at home, this is the game he came up here for, isn't it?
Yes.
It's a great shame for him. It's a shame for us because he scores goals. But it's a great shame. But hey, that's football.
I know, and 3 different competitions, and every game's against a B.
Oh yes, it's a bit. It's a bit of a bugger, isn't it? That's it.
Yeah, and Bradford City. Yeah.
But Whistler's back, and there's a B at the start of Brighton as well. So there's some good news with that.
Yeah, indeed. Yes. One thing that I was going to say about the last game was that I really do feel that that Eddie Howe and his coaches, they've got to impress on players that they must start shooting. Do you know that the only, other than the goal and Tonali hitting the post, the only other person to get shots on, and he got about four at goal, was Murphy on the right wing again. And he seems to be the one person who constantly will keep trying his luck shooting at goal. He gets the crosses in for people to score from. Who else is doing it? Who else is shooting? Who else is crossing? And these are the two most important parts of attacking football: crossing and shooting. And there are so many people who just aren't doing it. Just aren't doing it at all.
Yeah, I would agree. I was going to ask you about the game at the weekend, and was there any weak links for you? Because a lot of people who've been on the channel this week have said certain players. I've just, without putting them into your mind, is there anybody, John, who you felt his players could be at risk, on Thursday with Barcelona?
Harvey Barnes, I mean, it is at risk because Gordon's available, so it is at risk. But even if, regardless of whether Gordon was available or not, Harvey Barnes has disappointed me, and it's highlighted by something Malcolm just said there. You look on the other wing, Murphy is flying on that wing. He crosses a ball magnificently. He's ready to shoot at an instant. This is a guy who was 30 years old. Last season was out of his skin, played out of his skin, was involved in 23 goals, either scoring or assists. Yet we still looked, quite rightly, we still looked for an upgrade. We signed Elanga, 55 million. Elanga gets Murphy's place. But within a couple of games, Murphy's back in the side. And what's he do against Wolves? He provides the cross for the German boy to score. For me, Harvey Barnes isn't doing... It sounds oversimplification, but when Harvey Barnes isn't finishing, I wonder what he contributes. He doesn't do many assists for a winger, Malcolm. You think of a winger setting up goals for a centre forward. He's not involved in too many assists. And I thought very little come off the left wing against Wolves. I know we were not great in several positions, but straight away what struck me about who would be vulnerable on the display, the first person that struck me was Barnes.
Yeah, absolutely, John. When you have an attacking player like that, what you're asking for, and this is his responsibility, crosses into the box and don't hit the first man, get it beyond, and get shots in. I had a very, very similar situation with a left-sided winger when I was managing Fulham, and so I said to him, right, I am playing you in the reserves midweek. I would like you in 90 minutes. I'd like you to get 10 crosses into the box. That's one every 9 minutes. And I want you to get 3 shots at goal. That's one every half an hour. Now, does that sound impossible? Does it sound impossible?
No, not to me.
And Barnes, they're the kind of numbers that he should be clocking up. And he clocked nothing up at all. No crosses, no shots. And I got it into the head of this particular player Fulham, that this is what he was meant to do as a winger: get crosses in, get shots in. And at the end of the game, having given him those targets, I went into the dressing room and I said, well, you know the numbers I gave you, and I said to you, if you get those numbers, I'll play you on Saturday in the first team. I said, have you picked yourself in the first team? And he went, no. I said, absolutely no, because you didn't get a shot at goal, and I think you got one cross in. Not good enough. And Barnes is going through exactly the same. And I really felt that that there were 3 or 4 players whose mentality just wasn't right on the day. Barnes was one. Bruno certainly was another. I wasn't so sure about Joe Linton. And John, you and I, we sat together watching the game. What do you think was in Barnes' mind as to how to go about his game of football? He's got a new man in the middle, and you think, surely he's going to look to get supply in and around the 6-yard box for this guy to go and attack.
Because in the other 3 games,
not one cross did he put in.
The other 3 games, Malcolm, the only thing we really lacked was a centre forward. And all of a sudden we had a centre forward. So you would think the 2 wide men, and I thought Murphy took that attitude. I'm going to feed the bear. I'm going to feed the bear.
And he might not be as sweet a player on the ball as Barnes, as Gordon and others, but he's effective. He gets crosses in and makes goals, and he gets shots in and scores goals.
I mean, what we've got to hope, unless you play a winger on the wrong side, what you've got to hope is that Barnes freshens up by this rest against Barca, because I don't think he'll start, because he'll have to play at Bournemouth because Gordon's out again.
Well, but surely Barcelona is the kind of game that every footballer wants to play in.
Gordon will give us a different dimension.
Right. And so Eddie Howe's got the perfect opportunity to say, right, Gordon's back in. Barnes, you never got crosses in, you never got shots in. Now, you're not playing in this game. I'm sticking Gordon in. But you're back in for the following game. If you don't get crosses in, if you don't get shots in, you're out, and I'll forget about you. And I think that an awful lot of patience has been offered to Barnes in his time at the club, and I feel that he's not responding to it one iota at the moment.
I think, Malcolm, if he uses his noddle, yes, I would want Eddie to say that, and I'm pretty certain Eddie will in a private moment. He won't publicly, but he will privately. But it doesn't take a genius for Barnes himself to work out, I won't start against Barca because Gordon's available and because I haven't been doing it, but I will be in at Bournemouth. But after he's in at Bournemouth, then Gordon's available completely after that. So you go out again against Bradford, because there'll be a lot of changes against Bradford.
And isn't that the kind of situation that is such an incentive for Barnes to say, hey, I'm not letting him back in the side. To hell with him. I'm going to go out there and make myself absolutely indispensable to everybody.
Well,
and they're all going to say,
the very point
I want Barnes out there. He's supplying me brilliantly.
So it's because that's the way it is, because then they would certainly play Gordon, I feel, against Bradford, because he needs matches, having had a 3-match suspension, although he's played for England in that time. He needs matches. So he'll play against Bradford, and then it's just the best team or rotation, because he's back in for good. So, Barnes has got to go down to Bournemouth and do the business.
Yeah, absolutely he has. And and at other times there are players who are under the same kind of pressure as Barnes. When you think that Murphy he's out for a couple of games and he's straight back in because what he offers to the side, his replacement isn't providing. And look at the money that was spent on the fella. Well, he's got to sit down and scratch his head and say, "Blimey, I really need to buck my ideas up on this. Get crosses in, get shots in. If you do those two things, goals will be made and goals will be scored, and all of a sudden the world looks rosy. But at the moment, they're not doing that. They're not getting them in. So what's the point of being out in the football field in the first place if you're not going to get crosses in and get shots in?
In fairness to Elanga, and I think the point was made by Eddie a couple of hours ago in his press conference, Elanga's come, and a lot of players have said this. Gordon himself said this. When Gordon was starting to play sensationally and got in the England side, he'd been 6 months at the end of his season here and had made very little impression. And looking back on that, he said, I came to Newcastle, I thought I was fit by Everton standards and normal standards, but because of the high press at Newcastle, you've got to be even fitter. I wasn't up to that. He said, and then you've got to take so much in about the way Newcastle play, what he wants you to do as a winger, how you fit in as part of the jigsaw. He said, I was almost overwhelmed by everything. Then I found my feet and off he went. And Eddie hinted today that is exactly the same situation Elanga's finding himself in.
Yeah.
He's taken aboard so much information because we play different to Forest. At Forest, all it did, they sucked everybody up as a sponge, and then on the counter, they give the ball to Elanga, who ran like Usain Bolt, and the ball was suddenly down the other end. It was simple. It's not like that quite at Newcastle. And Elanga is getting told, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to get your fitness up, but you've got to be clever. And he's a bit overwhelmed by everything he's asked to take in mentally, and he's adjusting to that. That was Eddie's insight onto it today. And I can follow that because I relate to the way Gordon was when he come. And Gordon was very average for a while, and people were actually saying, well, is he as great as, why did Newcastle buy him? Is he as good as he was just at Everton? And then all of a sudden, the beginning of the next season, off he goes and he becomes a full England international and becomes exciting. And then he talked from a position of strength once he was doing it, how tough he found it to start with. And that sort of, I think of Elanga in the same way. I'm just trying to defend Elanga because maybe he will come good. And Eddie obviously had faith in him to pay 55 mil. But at the moment, Murphy's way ahead of him.
Yeah, way ahead. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, go on, man.
No, sorry, Steve, go on.
No, I'm just saying, Elanga, you're right, John, today. I mean, Eddie made a good point about it, just exactly, confirming exactly what you've said. And I think, it is difficult sometimes just to walk straight into a team. Baltimore has got no chance to take his time. He's thrust into it because we haven't got any other option. But we have got options left and right, which is nice. So that is a big thing.
And Steve, as well, when you think about that as being the attitude of the manager and what players feel, Chow has not got a sniff yet. I think he's had quarter of an hour against Liverpool, hasn't he? And that's obviously Ramsdale hasn't been in because it's slightly different with the goalkeeper and Pope's number one until he isn't, if you know what I mean. But players take a little while to come through, and Chow, no doubt Chow is knocking on the manager's door saying, hey, wait a minute, I played for AC Milan in the Champions League, and I played for AC Milan alongside Tonali, and you bought me. Why aren't I being played? But then all of a sudden the fella says, are you watching Shaw? It's a bit It's a bit different, and I think players are introduced slower at Newcastle. I remember Bruno was a slow introduction, and he couldn't understand it. He was going flipping crackers. But it's the way it is. And sometimes, if you don't have any patience, you end up like Lloyd Kelly. You don't get a sniff, and you suddenly find you're in Italy and ordering pizza.
Yeah, that tickled you, Malcolm. What made you laugh?
Yes, the bit about that he played in the Champions League for Milan, and the simple answer is, well, until you're a lot better, son, you ain't playing in the Champions League for us. Get out there and work at it.
Interesting stuff at full back as well. We're overloaded with quality at this moment in time. Trippier is rolling back the years in his in his 30s, and he's keeping Lewis Hall out the team. Tino Livramento has swapped to left back. And at the moment, that's the big conundrum. Does Eddie change it? He's gonna go for squad rotation this season. He's got a big enough squad to do it. It's a case of when does he do it? Is Lewis Hall likely to find his way back in the team in these next 3 games?
I think in the next 3 games, yes. I don't think necessarily automatically. I mean, Lewis Hall, can we establish to start with, before his injury in February, he was Newcastle's Player of the Year. And had become an England international. All of a sudden, he had the bad injury, and that's it. I mean, the way Trips has played, but more the way Livramento has played at left back. Livramento looks like a left back. He looks like a right back. He looks like a Rolls Royce. He's certainly not on a penny farthing, is he? He's a super player. And but over the next, because rotation is necessary, he's going to pick his very best team against Barca. He's got to meet the challenge of Barca. You pick your best team. Then you look at how much Barca's taken out of you. You realise you're playing Bournemouth away, who are an excellent side, an excellent form. Forget the name. They are a lot better than some of the big clubs. So you worry about that. But at least, if not at Bournemouth, I bet you Hall plays against Bradford City in the Carabao Cup. Because he'll spread the load. He'll play in the Carabao Cup next Wednesday at St James's Park. Hall will be our left back, nailed on, because he'll make changes for that. Because he hasn't against Wolves, then against Barca, then against Bournemouth. A lot of the players that have played all those games, and then he'll say, I bet you Chow plays against Bradford City, the new centre half, because the load has got to be spread in a League One side or something in the cup at home is when you spread it. But I felt sorry for Lewis Hall because he was a superstar, bless him, until February, and then with his injury. But I mean, against in the next couple of games, he'll also give a rest to Trips. He's 34.
Yes.
Does he want to play 3 games in a week? If the intensity of Barcelona, Bournemouth, and then the League Cup, he'll give Trips a rest, move Livramento to right back, and play Hall.
Yeah, and also, in all fairness, Hall overcame a dreadful first season, if you remember.
Of course he did. He hardly played, Malcolm, did he?
Yeah, hardly played. And I got the very deep impression that he wasn't fancied or rated by the manager and his staff. And so he had to really seriously prove himself. And he did that. In all fairness, he did that. But it took him a fair old while.
Because he did that and become an England international.
You need to get in the side.
Yeah. But if you remember, Malcolm, it was only earlier last season that in one game, I think, England 2 fullbacks were Livramento and Hall.
Yes, they were. And it would have been interesting to see if the 2 were played again. But of course, Hall was injured, so we weren't able to.
Yes. And of course, that's why there was talk that we might let Trips go at one stage last season because of these 2 young kids who could be the future for the next 10 years. But Trips has done brilliantly, in fairness to him. But at 34, I don't think Eddie will play him in 3 games with the intensity of Barcelona, followed by Bournemouth, followed by Bradford. At least by Bradford, he'll give Hall his chance. And I think he'll make quite a few changes against Bradford, to be truthful. You would think people like Chow and people like Hall and Ramsey, had he been fit, but he isn't. But Willock, Elanga, you would think they would probably play against Bradford City, or at least start with other big hitters on the bench.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Just going back to the last match, did you get the impression? Because we're all agreed, I think, that Barnes had a right old stinker, but the person who was actually succeeding in doing what an outside left should do was Livramento, and he was just bombing forward all of the while. Now, did he make Barnes feel as if he was a spare brick at a wedding? Or what? Was he sort of stood there going, well, what the hell? I'm watching Livramento go and do my job as well as his own.
It's a good point. It's a good point, Malcolm. But that's Bond's problem, because if he's going to be intimidated,
absolutely,
he's going to be intimidated, the Tyne bridge is over there and keep going south. It's up to him.
He's really got. He's got to fully establish himself, which he's failed to do. He's had good games here and there, or good sub appearances coming on later in the game. But what we want to see is some real consistency, game after game after game.
Yeah,
we're not getting that from him at all.
When I look at the current Newcastle side, Mal, not just against Wolves, but so far this season, etc., the 2 players are, and everybody was on about Isaac, the best player, of course, centre forward, scores over 20-odd goals, 2 successive seasons. Of course, you're obsessed, blue-eyed boys, centre forwards, etc., of course. But 2 players I watched at Newcastle this season, including the Wolves game, etc., and look at and warm to and think, hey, these are real performers. Ottenoli and Livramento. I think they are real performers.
Yeah. Yes.
Don't you, Malcolm?
Yes. I totally agree. Absolute performers. And if I were to add somebody to those 2, I would be inclined to add Murphy. He's not the perfect footballer like the other 2, but what he's doing is he's looking to make the very best of himself in a generous way, supplying to other players. And so sometimes the ball rolls under his foot and it goes out for a throw in, and just here and there he might lose the ball. But it's what he actually conjures up in terms of causing danger in the opposing box, and I think he's the best at causing that in the club at the moment. He gets crosses in, he gets shots in, and by heavens, he shoots from some distance at times. And you can see that.
What I love with his shooting, Malcolm, if the ball suddenly breaks to him unexpectedly, he'll whip his shot in straight away.
Yes, he will.
If you take one touch, I'm preaching to the converted with you, Mal, but you know what I'm talking about. If you take one touch, the chance is gone because people have closed the ground. You take no touch, you whip it. The second the ball drops, wherever it drops, you whip it. And he does take one touch.
Do that. Yeah, where other players want to fanny about on it.
Yeah, he does that. He'll take a whip straight away, which is very important.
Yeah. And it's a basic way of playing. And and he adds to the excitement. And we saw all too many against Wolves. They were sort of fanning about a bit on the ball, and it's there were times when I felt inside I was getting annoyed with players because they weren't doing what was necessary on the day. And when you think the number of chances that Wolves had, no wonder they're bottom. If with all those chances they can't stick the ball in the net, they are in serious trouble.
Yeah.
But some of their football was good.
Yeah, certainly was. Okay, we are halfway through the show. We'll have a quick break. Back after this. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them at www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2-crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. Hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach, all excursions included. Their website, unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And if you like listening to us as a podcast, you can go to Sports Social Podcast Network or to iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. If you want to support the show, then hit the subscribe button. It's free. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the little thumb up under the video, which is the like button, or click share to share to your social media. You can also join the channel on YouTube by hitting the join button for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to become an NUFC Matters member, you can go to nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. It's a £25 one-off fee. You get your pen, you get your badge, a key ring, you get your beer mat and your fridge magnet and your membership card, nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk for that. And we have an event early next year, 13th of February 2026, an evening with Beardsley, Waddle and Gascoigne takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. To buy your tickets for that event, go to the box office 0191 243 1171 or Tyne Theatre and Opera House.uk. Okay, welcome back. We're going to have a look ahead now with Supermac and Gibbo to the Champions League game, which of course takes place tomorrow night. We are back in the big time and it is Barcelona at home. Kickoff is 8 o'clock. Live coverage on TNT Sports if you're unlucky enough not to have a ticket. The visitors have taken an allocation of 800 places. Eddie Howe's press conference confirmed that Jacob Ramsey and Johan Wissa are both out injured still. Neither are expected to return before the international break in October. Wissa has been suggested that he'll be back for the Brighton game. Anthony Gordon, as we know, is suspended for the Premier League, but is available for this tie. And assuming he keeps his place, Nick Pope will complete 100 appearances for Newcastle United in all competitions tomorrow. Just a reminder, our Champions League A-list squad is as follows. Pope, Ramsdale, Trippier, Botman, Shaw, Chow, Kraft, Livramento, Byrne, Joelinton, Tonali, Willock, Guimaraes, Ramsey, Wissa, Gordon, Barnes, Asula, Alanga, Jacob Murphy and Walter Marder. There's a 21-man selection, 4 short of the maximum permitted, 25 due to eligibility criteria, which means that both Jamal Lascelles and John Ruddy are omitted from the squad. The B-list selection doesn't need to be submitted to UEFA until the day before each tie and can include an unlimited number of players born after January the 1st, 2004. They don't make this easy, do they? In Newcastle's case, the B-list includes the likes of Lewis Hall, Lewis Miley, Alex Murphy and under 21 academy players. So there we go. As for Barcelona, well, midfield pair, Gavi and Lamine Yamal miss out, which from a football point of view is great, but I think for Newcastle fans it would have been great to see Yamal play at St James's Park, but never mind. And defender Alexandra Balde is not on the plane either. Signed on a season-long loan from Man United, Marcus Rashford is no stranger to scoring against us. 5 goals for Manchester United. The most recent coming at Wembley, of course, in the Carabao Cup final defeat. Ferran Torres is just behind with 4 strikes against Newcastle while he was at Man City, including a hat-trick at St James's Park in 2021. And Rafinha was on target in both of his previous visits to Tyneside with Leeds. There is a touchline ban handed out to visit manager Hansi Flick and his assistant Marcus Sorg. That's been overturned and both can occupy the away dugout now. And ahead of their visit to Tyneside, well, they defeated Valencia 6-0 in La Liga on Sunday. 2 goals from Fermin Lopez, Rafinha, and the veteran forward who was linked with Newcastle on many occasions, Robert Lewandowski. So there we go. That is all the business. The referee, Glenn Nyberg from Sweden, VAR Jerome Brissard from France, and don't forget the food bank will be in operation outside the Gallagher end tomorrow. So please, if you've got any notes, drop them in the bucket. So, John, Champions League is back. I've given the overview to it. What's your feelings about this one, mate?
I mean, this is the real deal, isn't it? I mean, you know, Wolverhampton Wanderers, this is 6 upgrades from Wolverhampton Wanderers, with due respect to Wolverhampton Wanderers. I mean, this is what it's all about. And I love clinging to straws that are flying about in the wind. And with that in mind, my mind goes back wonderfully to 1997, Newcastle 3, Barcelona 2. And we all know what that was about. Tina Spear hat-trick. 2 of the 3 goals supplied by Keith Gillespie wonderfully. Wonderful crosses from the right, headed in by Asprilla. Does that sound a little bit like the current state of events? Crossed by Murphy from the right wing, headed in by Voldemade. So I'm looking for what Gillespie and Tino did 28 years ago. And by the way, it's 28 years almost to the day. The first match when we won was September the 17th, 1997. And this is September the 18th, 2025. So there's another thing. This is the 28th anniversary of that. Crosses from the outside right, headed in by the centre forward. Were they warming up for that against Wolves, the 2 boys, Murphy and Waldemare? I would love to think so. I'm not hanging my hat on it totally, but I would love to think so. This is a real test. I mean, yes, Yamal's missing. And as you said, Steve, I feel 2 ways about this. Wonderful in terms of trying to get a result, but awful in terms of I love to see the greatest players in the world live, not on television, live. And I would love to have seen Yamal from that point of view. They are so good that recently, until the Valencia match, Lewandowski and Rashford were sat on the bench. They couldn't get in the side. Rashford started against Valencia because Lamar was out and there was a reshuffle across the park. Lewandowski, and he's 37 now, for goodness sake, didn't start and has never started one single game this season because he's 37. But he come on for the last 20 minutes and scored 2 goals. That we had a cover centre forward capable of doing that. Wouldn't that be wonderful? But they are a very, very strong side. But Newcastle save their best for the huge matches against the royalty of European football. I'm thinking of Paris Saint-Germain. Huge matches against the royalty midweek under the lights, which is atmospheric, with a roaring crowd behind them, and us going hell for leather with a high press in the big start. So that while the performance against Wolves didn't give me any hope whatsoever, the fact that it is midweek against superstars of Europe in an atmospheric situation with Gordon back and players that can race the game, and we do in that situation. It will give them a genuine match, and that's what we've got to hope for. That we give them a genuine match, be that narrow victory, draw, defeat with honour, but that we give them a genuine match.
Indeed, I do feel quite strongly that we cannot afford to have any off performances like there were against Wolves. Everybody, every single player in every position has got to be absolutely 100% focused and doing their job exactly as they need to do it. And it's going to be a very, very interesting game, I have to say. I'm just a bit annoyed that Newcastle haven't scored more goals this season, because the opportunities have been there and it's not been taken. But who knows? The way that things go with Newcastle is they're just as likely to suddenly really turn it on tomorrow night. I hope they do. It's going to be one hell of a game if they do.
And Malcolm, you're saying you hope everybody's on blob and that, and of course they've got to be. Else we're going to be massacred. But maybe you can subconsciously a little bit underestimate Wolves. Oh, we'll go. I mean, I did. I thought Newcastle would win 2-0, 3-0. Not in a canter, but with a good. And all of a sudden it was 1-0 and very iffy. But you're not going to underestimate Barcelona. No. Surely they'll all be on blob against Barcelona, at least in terms of trying, if not in terms of form. You've got to be out there saying, this is the big game, perhaps one of the biggest games of the season. Let us, even though it's so early in the season, we've got to be out there. And, you can perhaps, and it's wrong, but every footballer is human being, like all of us. You can perhaps underestimate Wolves. And if you don't start right against Wolves, then you're trying to get back in it, and it's a bit different. But surely you don't underestimate Barca.
No, can't do. No, it would be the most foolish thing in the football world, I think, to underestimate them. And so I'm expecting quite a performance from Newcastle, because if they're not fully switched on, they know. Excuse me. They know that things will go against them, and that's why they've got to be absolutely on form all the way through. But what I noticed in the Wolves game was that at one stage after, and this was some while after the goal had been scored, that I saw Walter Marday and Jacob Murphy. I saw them just get together and they had a little sort of chin wag and a smile and a laugh together, and I thought that to me is the sign of a really good coupling. They're functioning. We need to see 2 or 3 more like that happening when we're on the attack, and it can happen. And who's to say it can't happen tomorrow night against Barcelona? Albeit the one thing, of course, is that Barcelona, they will look at the stats and go, well, hold on. Newcastle have the best defensive record in the Premiership.
Mm-hmm.
And so Barcelona will be very aware of that. They've conceded only to one club, and then it was only 2 goals. 3 goals. Three goals. And that's all that's been conceded by Newcastle so far. And here we are, middle of September. So, Barcelona will know that they have a really difficult match in front of them in terms of getting forward and scoring goals.
What I'm hoping for as well, Mal, is that with Gordon coming back into the side, as I'm absolutely 100% certain that he will do, if he wants any inspiration to hit the ground and show, apart from the fact that you're going to do it against Barcelona, and by is that impressive, and will Thomas Tuchel take some notice of that?
Yes.
But hit one of his direct opponents for his outside left position in the England team is Marcus Rashford, who's on the other side. So let's go and outshine Rashford for a start. That would have helped, wouldn't it?
And that really does happen in the game. You know, the players look at who's in the opposition and say, right, I'm going to outperform you, because you know that the right people are going to be watching.
Yes, exactly.
And so it is this wonderful opportunity to impress for reasons beyond club level.
Yeah.
Make a statement that I'm better than the Rashford of today.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we've still got a couple of other games to look at in the last 10 minutes, so let's get a prediction of you guys for tomorrow night. John, what are you expecting? I'm going to go first. I'll help you. I'm going 2-2. I think there'll be goals tomorrow.
Well, you've spoiled it for me. You've just
get in. So we're great minds, John. Great minds.
Because that's the exact result and score I was going to take. And I was going to say, if I do it with my head, I could get all sort of, oh dear me, what's going to happen to us, woe us, etc., etc. But Geordies don't live by our head, we live by our heart. We ignore facts and go for the romance. And I think there'll be goals. I don't see it lacking goals. And I just couldn't, under any circumstances, take Newcastle to lose a match of this importance and charisma and romance, because it would just go against the soul. I'm not going to forecast that we're going to beat them, but then I didn't think we'd beat them 28 years ago, and we did. But mind you, we've played them 3 times since and lost 3 times since. So, you know, it's been restored. I know Bobby will be up there looking down and saying, my 2 clubs, isn't it wonderful? And this is what I'm all about. And he's such a romantic. But I tell you what, Barca is the biggest club that he managed. Newcastle United was the love of his life. And I think he would want Newcastle to win tomorrow.
Sure.
We did play Barca with him and we didn't win. But I'm going 2-2, lads.
Okay. John, you've seen all of those games between the 2 clubs.
Newcastle and Barca, yeah.
Yes. How would you rate the Newcastle of today against those other Newcastle sides that you saw?
Brilliant question, because 2 of those sides, the one that beat Barca, Kenny Dalglish was the manager, but it was really Kevin Keegan's entertainers. Kenny Dalglish had just taken over.
Yes.
In all the players that did well, Gillespie and Asprilla and Barton and Rob Lee and Given, and were all, you know, they were all really the players of KK. And we played them as the Bobby Robson side that went into Europe and was terrific. So Newcastle have got to compare with 2 terrific sides in Bobby Robson's sides and Kevin Keegan's side. It really is raising the bar. What I do feel, Malcolm, is that in our stage of development, and it is development, we're not where we want to be yet, but my job, over the last 4 years since takeover, we've had 2 Wembley finals, we've won a cup final, we've played 2 seasons out of 3 in the Champions League. Are we making progress after Ashley? I bloody well think so. I really think so. I mean, you know, blinking heck. I mean, I can't recognise the situation. But having said that, we are in our development and towards the great side. We hope we are permanently. What I think we can do at the moment has produced the occasional peak, the occasional time where we scale Everest. And we did that with Paris Saint-Germain 2 years ago when we won 4-1, but we weren't able to maintain it and we didn't qualify from the group. And that was it until now we're doing it again. And I think we're capable of peaks against the wonderful sides. Where we're different, Malcolm, from the other sides is sustaining that. When we beat Paris Saint-Germain 4-1, we couldn't sustain it.
Yeah.
We could get a great result against Barca, like a 2-2 draw, or please God, a win. But sustaining it, that's what makes the difference in between a side that can burst with energy and with a flame and be wonderful one night, and then they go to Bournemouth or they go to Union in Brussels for the next Champions League game, and it's a little bit different. We're building towards sustainability. We can hit peaks, but I don't know that we're there with sustainability yet. But I tell you what, we're getting a bit anxious. Now, only I, out of us three, have got a right to be anxious because of my age. I ain't got time. I want to see them do it now. I don't want to look at tomorrow. I'm today's man. I want it to happen now. But having said that, aren't we going in the right direction, for goodness sake?
Oh, yeah.
Aren't we going in the right direction? And aren't we perhaps, after waiting for so long, rather anxious for to make the steps so quickly that we want us to be, I don't know, Arsenal's Wenger or Manchester United's Fergie or Real Madrid or Barcelona. We want to be there double quick. And it takes a little bit of time. We're making good progress. We're possible to get a result tomorrow night. No question about that whatsoever. Sustaining it. That's the next step.
Mal, what was your prediction?
I'm going to go 2 each with both of
Whoa,
you.
all in there. Great.
I think it's going to be goals from both sides, and I think it's going to be not just an absolute festival of football and goals, but I think I'm just looking forward to feeling that attitude that's out there of both sides, and that desire to get on top, and it's going to be such a battle for the two sides for one of them to get on top of the other. It's going to be very, very interesting, and the atmosphere. Well, I think I think that our new German goal scorer, I think he will be wowing himself when he experiences the atmosphere.
You did say wowing yourself, didn't you?
Yes, wowing.
Yes, that's good. That's good. I was a little worried there. You did say wowing yourself.
Wowing himself.
It's difficult really to look ahead to Bournemouth and Bradford and give realistic predictions because we don't know what the situation is. The Barcelona game result acceptable change things, but I mean, just before we finish, lads, I mean, progress. Fast forward in the next Wednesday, progress in the Carabao Cup you would expect no matter what team is put out. Home, St James's Park against a lower league side, Newcastle United players who aren't getting a game you would like to think would be putting their best efforts in to try and usurp those holding down the regular positions. And, of course, Bournemouth, as we've already said, really, we were saying off air before we came on, Bournemouth's a tricky fixture, isn't it? To go from the Champions League into that game.
But just on the Bradford City game, remember, we're defending the Carabao Cup.
Very good
It's
point.
ours to defend right now, and I would have that trophy sitting right in the middle of the dressing room before the players go out on the pitch, and just remind them that's yours to lose.
Great point. Great point, Malcolm. Great point.
Yeah.
Great point.
But for Bournemouth, as I said earlier, that Bournemouth really looked very impressive in that second half over the weekend, and I think that Bournemouth, they're one of those tricky sides for Newcastle, that Newcastle are never really fully comfortable when they're playing against Bournemouth. I wish they could find that comfortable way of going out and playing against them. But it's going to be a tight old game, and I think that if Newcastle can finish up winners by a single goal, I'll say well done to them on that. And also that we find out our way into the next round of the Carabao Cup.
Yeah, I would settle for a draw tomorrow, a draw against Bournemouth and beating Bradford. And Waldo's just said the same in the chat, John. I mean, that wouldn't be a bad return from these games.
That would be a brilliant return, and that's really what I'm looking for. You sometimes say 2 draws for Newcastle, or you're saying they're good results. I think they actually are in this case because for several reasons. One, Barca draw would be fabulous. We are coming from a week where within 8 days we're playing Wolves, Barcelona and Bournemouth. Bournemouth have had a free week. Bournemouth have had nothing midweek. Now, emotionally as well as physically, this is going to be draining on Thursday night. This is going to be draining. And then Eddie's got to be clever how he handles the team. We won't know how he'll handle a team yet till he sees individual performances and what it's taken out of them tomorrow night, etc., etc. And I remember last season, Bournemouth playing at St James's Park in January or February, I think. And they got, it was a master class in tactics. And Eddie is good at tactics. He was outdone in this one match. We lost 4-1. Clive scored a hat-trick, if you remember. And they pushed on to our back four. They exposed us for pace. Clive had run out to Dan Burn and then went left onto Trippier. And both were done for pace repeatedly. They hounded with the whole game. They won 4-1 at St James's. That's the danger Bournemouth have had. I'm looking for us to draw with Barcelona, as you said, Steve, draw with Bournemouth, and I think whatever team we put out, we're going to beat Bradford because really, if we go Ramsdale, if we go Chow, if we go Lewis Hall, if we go Willock and Miley, if we go Elanga, they should all be good enough to beat Bradford. Otherwise, what are they doing as part of a Premier League squad? They should be good enough because there's not weaknesses there. I would want the big German to play 3 games out of 3, by the way. Yeah. But I would draw that Sule didn't start against Bradford. But there we go. But I'm taking draw, win.
Great stuff. I'm going to go the same as well. I'd take that as well. I'd love to see Newcastle win tomorrow night and win on Saturday, but we've got to be realistic, especially with the injuries to Wissa and to Ramsey as well. Maybe to a lesser extent Ramsey, but I think Wissa would have made the difference tomorrow, certainly. Being able to come on. But look, great stuff. We've just got to enjoy these games. Enjoy tomorrow night. Enjoy the atmosphere. It'll be fantastic.
Absolutely.
We're back in the big time, and rightly so. But we will be back next Thursday, 6 o'clock, to look back over it all. And, of course, then look ahead to the weekend's game. Have a good week, lads. Enjoy tomorrow night.
Indeed.
You were very best. Looking forward to it.